Welcome back to Worship in the Trenches. I'm Josh Sahulik, and this is where Sunday's worship meets Monday morning. It's 1660, and a lay preacher named John Bunyan was arrested in Bedfordshire, England. He was arrested for holding a worship service outside of the authority of the established church. Here he is, 32, married with 4 children, and one of them a blind daughter named Mary. The magistrates offered him a simple deal: agree to stop preaching and go home to your family. Bunyan refuses. He says he would rather stay in prison till the moss grew on his eyelids before he'd agree to silence. And he meant it. He spent the next 12 years in a Bedford jail. He described the pain of being separated from his children as the pulling of flesh from his bones. And he knew exactly what it was costing him. But he could not stop because, as he put it, the word he'd been given was a fire in him that would not go out. This fire runs straight through this week's 4 readings. It begins with the prophet Jeremiah, which is maybe the most brutally honest prayer in the Old Testament. Jeremiah tells God exactly what faithfulness has cost him. He's become a laughingstock, mocked every single day for saying what he was given to say. His own friends are watching, hoping he'll stumble. So in Jeremiah 20, he decides to quit. He resolves to stop speaking in God's name altogether. And he discovers that he can't. In fact, he says there's a fire that is shut up in his bones, and he's worn out from trying to hold it in. The cost of speaking is suffering. The cost of silence is a fire that can't be contained. And the fire wins. Then watch what happens next. The lament turns to confession, where he says, "The Lord is with me as a dread warrior." Right in the middle of his complaint, he sings. And in Psalm 69, the same source of suffering is named. "It is for your sake that I have borne reproach." This man has become a stranger to his own brothers because his loyalty to God has cost him everything. And the New Testament reaches back and puts this very psalm on the lips of Jesus, where he says, "I have a zeal for your house which will consume me." The reproach the psalmist carried, Christ carried all the way to the cross. So in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus tells his disciples plainly, it's coming for you too. If they slander the master of the household should expect worse. And then 3 times in a sentence, he says the same thing. Do not fear. Do not fear, because what's hidden will be brought to light. And do not fear, because the one who can kill the body has less authority than the one who holds body and soul. And do not fear, because 2 sparrows sell for a penny, and not one of them falls without your Father seeing it. Even the hairs on your head are numbered. Then he raises the stakes. Following him will divide families. The cross has to be carried, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And in Paul, in Romans chapter 6, hands us the reason any of this is survivable. Every believer baptized into Christ was baptized into his death. The old self was crucified with him. And just as Christ was raised, he walks in newness of life. Here's what that does. The person who has already died with Christ has already passed through the worst that the world can do. The word Paul uses, "Consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to God." It's an accounting term. It means to reckon it, count it as settled. The threats of the world land on someone who has already been raised. So what does this mean in the trenches? If you're a pastor or a ministry leader, you know the quiet, respectable version of Bunyan's deal. Nobody's threatening you with prison, but there is almost always an uncomfortable silence available. A hard truth that you could soften, a conviction that you could keep to yourself just to keep the peace. Jeremiah tried that, but the fire would not go out. The question is not whether silence is easier, it's whether you can live with it. And if you're a volunteer, your faithfulness gets noticed in ways that you may not see, and occasionally it costs you. But when it does, remember the sparrow. The God who counts them sees you in your unglamorous, unthanked work. And if you're sitting in the pew this week and following Christ has genuinely cost you something, maybe a relationship, a reputation, or a comfort that you could have kept, hear all 3. Do not fear. You have already died. You have already been raised. The threats are landing on someone who's already on the other side of death. Bunyan lost 12 years of his daughter's childhood because the fire would not go out. Jeremiah lost his standing in his culture. The psalmist lost his place among his own brothers. And Jesus says that losing is the path to finding. Most of us will never see the inside of a jail cell for our faith, but all of us will face the moment where faithfulness costs us a comfortable silence we could have kept. You have already died, and you have been raised, so let the fire burn. Thanks for joining me this week in the trenches. It's my privilege to stand shoulder to shoulder with you.